Straight all day.
Now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, wait, there's more. You get a huge dose of personal initiative. That's the go-getter energy that moves you, me, and anyone else out there to go make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together in one package. What you get, it's the mindset, the method, the philosophy, the book, the show, known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic is how to solve the problems and build value anywhere that you are, anywhere that you go. Years ago, this was almost 10 years ago, I was talking to this professional basketball coach. I believe he was coaching in Spain. And it wasn't the coach. You've heard Coach Christian Crudelli here on Your Game show. Met at the same place. Actually, I think we met at the same place. Same place that I met Crudelli, I met this guy. But this coach, I was asking him, I said, Coach, when you have so many players who are trying to get contracts, American players, that is. This guy was, I believe he was Italian. He was coaching in Spain. And I said, you got all these different American players who are trying to get signed to play for your team. And many of them can actually play. They have impressive resumes. They've been at this place, that place. They played for these other teams. Maybe they even come with a recommendation. And there are so many players who have games, so many that you could choose from, many of whom could help your club. How do you decide which player to sign? And we were actually recording a video at this time, and someone was going to use this video to show to players to let them know, hey, this is what overseas coaches are looking for. So I said, if there's an American player looking at this right now and they want to really get your attention, what is it that they need to do to get you interested in signing them individually as opposed to any of the other players out there who also have game, who also have a resume, this, that, and the third, who want to play? How do they stand out? And the coach's answer was, the most important thing that we look for when we look to sign an American player to play for our international professional basketball club is we look for a player who can solve the problems. That was the way that he answered the question. He said, we want players who can solve the problems. In other words, what he was saying was, if our team is very young and we need some veteran leadership, the most important thing we want is a player who has displayed veteran leadership somewhere on our resume. Or if we need outside shooting and rebounding, we want a player who's a good outside shooter and a strong rebounder. Or if we need a ball handler or someone who's a really good defender, we're looking for a player who can do those things. So first of all, what he was saying is the first thing we do is assess what we already have, and we figure, all right, where are the problems here? Where are the areas of need, the most pressing areas of need for this team that we have right now before we sign a player? And then we're going to go look for a player who fills the gaps. So if we have 3 gaps on this team, we want a player who can fill all 3 gaps. If we got 4, we want a player who can do that. We have 2, we want a player who can fill those. So we figure out what our problems are, this overseas coach was explaining, and then we go find a player who can fill those problems. The player who can best fill the most of the gaps that we have in our organization, that's the player that we're going to sign. That may not necessarily be the most talented player. Now, he didn't say this. This is what I'm saying. That may not necessarily be the most talented player. May not necessarily be the most experienced player. It may not be the player that got recommended by somebody that he knows. He's looking for the player who can solve the problems. Why? Because what business is he in? I told you in episode, I can't even remember the number of the episode, but it's right there in your feed wherever you're listening to this. What business are you in? I believe it's 1254. That coach, professional basketball coach, I mean, y'all should be able to answer this question. Now, what business is he in? He's in the business of winning games, because if he doesn't win games, he's no longer in business, or he'd be out of a job. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of other things he wants to get out of his work, but if he's not winning games, then he won't have any work. So the main business that he's in is winning games. So the player that can best solve the problems that his team has that look like could hinder them from winning games, that's the player that's going to get the deal. Today, what we're talking about is not necessarily professional basketball overseas, but you can apply it to that. What we're talking about is how you could do the same thing for yourself. Be an individual who best solves people's problems, and the best that you plug the gaps, the holes that they have in whatever it is they're doing, that will make you the most valuable option to them. And therefore, they will choose you. They will seek you out. They will call you. They'll subscribe to you. They'll follow you. They'll pay you. They'll buy from you, not buy you, but buy from you. And they'll be your loyal follower, fan, customer, client, etc. Whatever it is you're trying to get, whatever business you happen to be in, you'll be able to do more of that business. The better you can, first of all, identify and then display that you can solve people's problems. That's today's topic. Point number one. Today's topic, once again, how to solve the problems and build value. The more you can solve problems, you're already building value. I'm just putting that in there, but you should understand that. Point number one, as I just told you, being good is not enough. Now, do you need to be good? Yes. Do you need to have talent? Do you need to have game? Do you need to have skills, abilities, information, knowledge, education, hard work, effort, show up all the time? Do you need all of those things? Yes, you need all of those. If you're missing any of those, you probably shouldn't even be listening to this because you're unqualified for the job already without us even talking about anything. So yes, you need all of those things, but having game is not enough because a lot of people have game. So what's going to separate you from everybody else when someone's trying to make one choice? You need to be good, not just in general, but you need to be good for the situation to which you are selling yourself. This is a very important point. If you are, let's use an example here. Let's say you're an all-around, ball-dominant forward, point forward who plays basketball. Those of you who know what a point forward is, that's like a bigger size guy, but who can also dribble the ball and pass and score, kind of an all-around player. Like I just said, you're a ball-dominant player. You like to have the ball in your hands. You do your best when you have the ball as much as possible. Listen, if you're that type of player, you probably don't want to try out for the Los Angeles Lakers right now, at least as of today's recording. Why? Because they already got a guy who fits that description. His name's LeBron James. If you are you're a great quarterback who can throw really accurate passes, you believe you can lead a team to the Super Bowl, you probably don't want to try out for the New England Patriots because you're probably not going to get on the field. They already got a guy named Tom Brady. So not only do you need to be good, listen, you could be the best point forward in the world who doesn't have a contract, but you don't want to try out for the Lakers because they already got a guy in that spot. So you're not good for that situation. Not that you're not a good player, you just don't fit what they need at that moment. You may be the best quarterback out there, but you don't fit what the Patriots need. They don't need a quarterback. They got one, at least as of when I'm recording this. You got to be good for the situation that you're selling yourself to. This is all about fit. If you're solving the problems, ladies and gentlemen, does not mean it means that you are not only good, but you are a good fit for the space you wish to occupy. If you're selling something to someone, something that you should not do, and this is something that amateur salespeople do, and we're all salespeople, so everyone listens to this, even if you think you're not a salesperson, you are. You mean you're probably just not good at it. When you're selling to someone, do not go straight into talking about how great your offer is. Whatever it is you do, whatever you would get, how many reviews you have, how you help the last person, what abilities you have, talking about all the features and benefits of your product or your service or your offer or yourself or whatever it happens to be. Do not go straight to your prospect and start talking about all the great things that you or your product or service brings to the table. Don't do that. That's what amateurs do. The first thing you need to do is find out what your prospect needs. Because if you find out that what your prospect needs is not what you offer, all that means is you need to go find a new prospect. That prospect is not a prospect to you. In sales, we say you got to figure out, the first thing you must figure out before you go into your pitch or whatever it is you want to call it, is you got to figure out if you're talking to a prospect or a suspect. A suspect is someone who does not need what you offer. A prospect is someone who does need what you offer. That's just simple definitions, right? So if you are a great quarterback talking to the New England Patriots, the Patriots to you are a suspect. Now, if you're a great wide receiver, maybe the Patriots need you. To that person, to the wide receiver, Patriots are a prospect. So you can be a client, a prospective buyer could be a prospect to one person and a suspect to another person. It is all relative, and it depends on the situation. So the first thing you need to do, salesperson who is solving the problems, is you got to figure out what the problems are. If you don't know what the problems are, don't start pitching your solution because I might not need your solution. You understand? See, if I don't need anyone to come to me and say, hey, Dre, here's a possible topic for your podcast. So can you name someone who has come up with more topics than me? No. All right. So why would I need that? I don't need that. All right. That's not one of my problems. All right. So don't try to solve a problem that doesn't need to be solved. If you're solving a problem, first thing you got to do is figure out what the need is. Find out what the need is. Here's the simple way to find out what someone's need is. Ask the question, What are your needs? Where do you need help? Where could I offer value? If you don't ask that question, but then you make a pitch, even if you think your pitch is amazing, it may land on deaf ears. Why? Because you are not solving the problem. You don't even know what the problem is. How can you solve it? So this is why, as the saying goes, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. First, you got to listen, then talk. Not both at the same time. Definitely don't talk first. Which is what most people do. That's why most people are amateurs. You may have the best vacuum cleaner in the world that you're selling door to door, but if the prospect that you're talking to has hardwood floors, they're not a prospect. They're a suspect because they're not in the market to buy what you're selling. Now, I know there are vacuums that can vacuum hardwood floors, but you get the point that I'm making. Smart people, good salespeople, professionals, the first thing they do is find out the needs of the person they're talking to. Decide if they're talking to a prospect or a suspect. If it's a suspect, then the conversation is over. You should know within 60 seconds whether you're talking to a prospect or a suspect, so that you don't waste 10 minutes giving a pitch to a person who is not in the market to buy what you're selling. If I know that the Lakers have LeBron James and I play the same style as LeBron James, I'm only going to talk to the Lakers for 1 minute before I realize they don't need me, and I'm going to move on to a different team that might need me. Amateurs waste a whole lot of time with people who are not prospects. They waste a whole lot of time with suspects because it feels good to feel like they're doing something, being busy, when they're not being busy rather than being productive. They actually get nothing done by the end of the day, and then they wonder what the problem is. This is what amateurs do. Find out need first. Then you tailor your offering to the needs of the person with whom you're dealing. Or let's just say that the person you're talking to is a suspect. Let's say you realize that what you're offering just is not a good fit with whomever you're talking to. You realize that the person you're talking to is a suspect. Or how can you start to figure out that the person you're talking to is a suspect? Or maybe you're already in a place and you're delivering what you're delivering, but it just doesn't seem to be landing the right way, and you're trying to figure out what the hell the problem is. We'll move on to point number 2, and I'll explain to you what that is. Today's topic is how to solve the problems and build value in anything that you do in life. Here's the second point. It's quite possible that you just might be solving the wrong problem for the wrong person. Maybe you're doing both at the same time. Maybe you're doing one or the other. You're solving the right problem, but it's for the wrong person, or you're solving the wrong problem for the right person, or maybe it's the wrong problem and the wrong person. Any one of those 3 means you're dealing with a suspect. Any one of those 3 means you are dealing with a suspect. The only time you're dealing with a prospect, a person who could actually get what you're offering, is when it's the right problem that you solve and you're dealing with the right person who needs it solved. It's okay if it's one of the other 3, wrong problem or wrong person or both, because everything is not for everyone. And you don't need to be everywhere. You can only be in one place at a time. Some people, some ideas, and some products are just so amazing that they can fit and make improvements no matter where they are or how they are deployed. Most people, products, and ideas don't fit that description. Most of us are not so lucky, and we need to put ourselves in the right place that is properly targeted so that we can be utilized correctly. Us or our ideas or our products, our services, our offerings can be utilized correctly, smartly. Everybody does not need to try to be everything. The problem that many amateurs have is that they see any opportunity, or what they consider to be an opportunity is not really an opportunity for them. Opportunity for the right person. They're not the right person, but they see it as an opportunity, so they try to fit themselves in. They try to fit their square peg into a round hole that just doesn't work, and then they wonder why things are just not converting the way that they want them to convert. Simply because you are solving the wrong problem for someone who doesn't need it solved, or you're solving the right problem, but you're doing it for the wrong person. You're in the wrong place, and since we can only be in one place at a time, if you're in the wrong place, you can't be in the right place. So you see how this costs you a whole lot more than you even think? Yeah, it's costing you in that you're not getting anything from where you are, but it's also costing you that you're not getting the right things from the place that you should be, because you're not where you should be, because you, as the amateur, didn't figure out whether you were solving the right problem for the right person before you started solving it. And this is something that I see so often from so many people who never really put any thought into what they're offering or what they're doing or where they believe they can deliver value, that they end up wasting a whole lot of time. The opportunity cost of that wasted time, oftentimes you don't get that cost back. The main reason why people don't get the cost back is because what I'm talking about here today never occurs to them. They never even think about it. Now, if you know anyone who fits that description, they should be listening. Let them listen to this. Send them if they don't have a link, then tell them to subscribe to the game group membership, whatever they got to do to hear whatever I'm saying right now. Show them your notes. Scottie Pippen, talking basketball. He's an all-around point forward, actually similar to LeBron James, but he's not as ball dominant as he wasn't as ball dominant as LeBron is. So Scottie Pippen, those of you who don't know, is a Hall of Fame basketball player. I mean, he's one of the greatest basketball players in history. He played second fiddle, as they say. He was the number 2 guy in the pecking order on the Chicago Bulls for the majority of the 90s. He was the sidekick, as they say, to a guy by the name of Michael Jordan, who we talked about in episode 12, what was that, 17? Michael Jordan Virtual Mentors episode. And a lot of people will sometimes mock Scottie Pippen for being the number 2 guy because he wasn't the number 1 guy. And there are a whole lot of sayings, especially in Western culture, where a lot of our culture is all driven by who's the number 1 person, who's the person on top, who's the best, who has the number 1 spot. If you're not the lead dog, then the view never changes. They would say that in sales. If you're not the lead dog, the view, all these kind of sayings that are supposed to motivate a person to always try to be the number 1 person, the best person at the head of the table, especially with males, because males, we have testosterone and it drives us to win, to conquer, to compete, to defeat, to be the best. Scottie Pippen was in that number 2 spot on the Chicago Bulls roster for all of the 90s, and they were winning all their championships. And he was the number 2 guy to Michael Jordan, who's one of the greatest players of all time. And Scottie Pippen won 6 championships, and he made the Hall of Fame. And most of you, if you know anything about basketball, you know Scottie Pippen's name without me having to give you a description of who the guy was. He won 6 championships playing number 2 to the greatest player of all time. Now, is that such a bad thing? I don't think so. I mean, Scottie could have done a lot worse. He could have gone to a different team, demanded to be that guy on whatever team he was going to be on, and maybe never won any championships. And maybe we would not be mentioning him. I wouldn't have come up with his name as an example here. When you find a place in life where you are solving the problems and you're solving them for the right people, be careful about leaving a good thing, because the grass may not be greener on the other side of that fence. And this is something that semi-pros do. I wouldn't even call you an amateur, but you can be a semi-pro. When things are working out, you're solving the right problems for the right people, but for whatever reason, you're not satisfied with where you are. You're not satisfied with continuing to grow in the position that you're in. You want to get to a different position. Maybe you want more responsibility. Maybe you want more money. Maybe you want more ROI. Whatever it is, you feel like you're not getting enough of it. And often is not you that's thinking it. It's these ideas that are being supplied by external forces, such as the people around you, such as maybe it's the media or the fans or the audience, or maybe you just seeing somebody else who has more than you. So you're like, man, I got to catch up to them. I got to do better than them. I got to compete with this person. Again, this often happens. This disease befalls men much more often than it befalls the females, simply because, again, we're wired with this testosterone. We are driven to compete and try to beat just because it's just how we're wired. Be careful leaving something that is working. If something's working, just let it keep working, or continue to work on it so it continues to work. Don't necessarily think that you need to leave a good thing to go for what looks like greener pastures, because those pastures may not be as green as you thought they were by the time you get over there. Kyrie Irving is a good example of this, that his story is not completely written. He's still playing basketball, but I would consider him an example here, because Kyrie Irving, good player, very talented player, came into the NBA, was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers, number 1 pick in the, I believe it's 2011 draft, went to the Cavs. The Cavaliers were a bad team for about 3 or 4 years with Kyrie as their best player. They were not winning at all, didn't come close to competing. LeBron James leaves the Miami Heat, re-signs with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Back where he began, him and Kyrie team up. They immediately become a dynamic club, go to the NBA Finals 4 years in a row. 4 years straight, go to the finals, win the championship, and then one summer, Kyrie Irving just decides, hey, I don't want to play for the Cleveland Cavaliers anymore. That was Kyrie Irving's decision. He didn't want to play for the Cavs anymore. I think 3 years in a row he was there. But then he said, I don't want to play for the Cavs. I want to be traded. So Kyrie Irving manufactures this trade. He gets traded. Goes to the Boston Celtics. He didn't go back to the NBA Finals. He hasn't been back to the NBA Finals yet. He was injured 1 year. Then the next year, his team flamed out in the, first or second round of the playoffs. As we speak, he is playing for the Brooklyn Nets, and the season is still ongoing. So hopefully they do great. Hopefully Kyrie continues to dazzle and do what he does. But many people said at the time that trade happened, and I wonder at the time the trade happened, Kyrie, do you really want to leave playing alongside the best player in the game today, who was LeBron James, to go and be the man on your own team, be the guy on, quote, your own team, close quote? Do you necessarily need that? Well, we'll find out. I mean, as I said, Kyrie Irving's story is still being written, so maybe he can prove me wrong in using him as an example here. But when you find that you're solving the right problems for the right people, Kyrie is the perfect complement to LeBron, exactly what LeBron needed, a guy who everything that LeBron didn't do amazingly, Kyrie did amazingly. It was a perfect match between the two of them. But Kyrie wanted more. Kyrie wanted to go to greener pastures, at least what he thought were greener pastures. They weren't in Boston. Now he's in Brooklyn, so let's find out. Point number 3. Today's topic is solving the problems and building value and adding value. Understand that solving the problems, again, is a relative term. Not everybody can solve the same problems for the same people in the same places. Point number 3, when you are solving the problems for people, you'll know it. Let me tell you how you'll know you're solving the right problems for the right people, because this is the litmus test. So maybe right now you're looking at some position that you're in life and you're not sure if you're solving the problems or not. You're not quite sure if you're in the right place, if you're the person who's doing what needs to be done. You're trying to figure out, all right, Dre, I understand logically what you're saying, but how can I tell if I'm solving the problems where I'm at right now? How will I be able to tell in the future if I'm solving the right problems for the right people? Here's how you know. Because when you're solving the problems, not only do the people that you're dealing with take your calls when you ring them, all right, they'll call you because they need you. They'll call you without you even having to call them. And if you do call them, they'll answer the phone. And if they don't answer, they'll call you right back. The people who you're solving the right problems for, and they're the right people, they not only pay you for whatever it is you're offering, you can set your own price and they'll pay whatever that price is. All right, they won't dictate the price to you. You dictate the price to them. And they'll be happy to pay it, whatever it is. If this isn't happening in what you're doing, you are either in the wrong place or you're not quite solving the right problems for the right people, or maybe a combination of all of those. People are not willing to take your call or listen to you. You're talking to the wrong people, and or you are solving the wrong problem. If people are not willing to pay you, or they're not willing to pay the price that you've set, you're solving the wrong problems for the wrong people. If you threaten to quit your job, for example, and whomever you work for doesn't offer you a raise or offer you some extra perks and benefits to keep you at the job rather than you quitting, or you might be working at the wrong job, or you don't have the right skills, or maybe you're just not as good as you thought you were. So I'm assuming that you're actually good at what you do. So assuming that you're good at what you do and that you bring a high level of value to your work, if you threaten to quit and they don't offer you something extra to not quit, all right, maybe you're not that good, or you're in the wrong place, let me say. But if you're a bum, because I'm assuming that you're good, but if you're a bum, they may be happy for you to quit. All right, they may be happy to get your ass out of there. But if you're good, all right, they'll do what they got to do to keep you around. Why? Because of the value that you bring to the table. You're solving a problem that they don't want to have to go through the process of finding somebody else who can solve that problem. So ask yourself, if I raise my price of what I'm offering, will people still pay it? That's a litmus test for whether you're solving the right problems for the right people. Ask yourself, if I call, would they answer? The people who answer when you call, those are the people for whom you're solving the right problems, and they're the right people. People who don't answer, you're solving the wrong problems, and or they're the wrong people. Ask yourself, if I threaten to leave this place and stop doing what I'm doing, would anybody wonder why I was leaving? Would anybody try to convince me not to leave? Would anybody try to talk me into staying? If the answer is no, you are in the wrong place, or you're solving problems for the wrong person, or you are just not as good as you thought you were. These are litmus tests for you to figure out whether you're solving problems and adding value where you are, or you're just taking up space and they're just waiting for you to leave. Let's recap today's topic, which is how to solve the problems and build value anywhere you go in life. Overseas basketball coach told me when he's trying to decide what player to sign, being that there's so many of them, there's so much talent out there, the way he decides is by looking at the problems that his team has and finding the person who best solves the most problems the most efficiently. That's the player who gets the contract. And today we're talking about how you can do the same thing for yourself in anything you do, whether it be business related or not, but all of life is a business. So it's all business related. Point number 1, being good is not enough. You need to be good for the situation to which you are selling yourself. If you are an all-around ball-dominant forward, for example, don't try out for the Lakers. They already got that guy. If you're a quarterback, don't try out for the Patriots. They already have one. Solving the problems means not only that you're good, but that you're a good fit for the space you wish to occupy. So maybe you don't fit at the place you're trying to get into now, but you'd be a perfect fit somewhere else. But you got to be willing to see. First of all, you got to be disciplined enough to notice that. Then you got to be willing to admit it. And then you got to go to wherever that place is so you can solve that problem. You may have the best vacuum cleaner in the world, but if the person you're selling to has hardwood floors, they're not in the market for your vacuum cleaner. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you or your sales pitch or your vacuum cleaner. It just means you're selling it to the wrong person. Point number 2. You may be solving the wrong problem for the wrong person, like I just said, and it's okay. Everything's not for everyone. Person with hardwood floors does not need a vacuum cleaner. You don't need to be everywhere. Some people, ideas, or products are so amazing that they can fit and make improvements anywhere they are. Most people and things, though, are not so lucky and need to be utilized properly and positioned correctly. Scottie Pippen positioned himself perfectly. Number 2 guy to the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan, won himself 6 championships. Kyrie Irving was next to a guy who was the best player in the league, but for whatever reason, didn't want to stay there. He wanted to reposition himself somewhere else. It didn't quite work out the way I think he thought it was going to work out in that new place. Now he's in another place. His story is still being written, so we'll find out how that goes. Point number 3. When you are solving problems, you'll know it because they not only take your call, they'll call you. They'll not only pay you, but they'll pay whatever price you set. If this is not happening, you're either in the wrong place, you're not quite solving the right problems, or you're not dealing with the right people, or all 3. If you threaten to quit your job and they don't offer you a raise in order to stay or try to talk you into keeping the job, then you're probably working at the wrong job, given that you're actually good. Now, if you're a bum, they might want to get rid of you anyway. Work on your game. Dre all day.